The secret to unlocking your greatest potential isn't talent, luck, or even passion. It's the often uncomfortable, yet ultimately liberating, act of forcing yourself to be consistent. How often have we started with a burst of enthusiasm, a surge of motivation, only to find ourselves drifting, our initial fervor fading like a forgotten ember? We set ambitious goals, envision grand achievements, but somewhere along the way, the daily grind, the unexpected hurdles, the sheer effort of showing up day after day chips away at our resolve. Today, I want to talk about something fundamental to bridging that gap between intention and realization, the often underestimated power of forcing yourself to be consistent. Let's be honest. Consistency isn't always glamorous. It's not the exhilarating rush of starting something new. It's the quiet, persistent effort of showing up even when you don't feel like it. It's the discipline to stick to the plan when distractions beckon. It's the conscious choice, day in and day out, to take that small step forward, even when the finish line seems miles away. This, my friends, is where the forcing comes in. We need to recognize that consistency is a deliberate choice, not a passive occurrence. It requires us to actively push past our inertia, to silence the inner voice that whispers excuses, and to consciously choose to align our actions with our goals. Think of it like pushing a heavy wheel. The initial push requires significant effort, but with each consistent rotation, the wheel gains momentum, and the task becomes progressively easier. Similarly, forcing ourselves to be consistent in the beginning builds the momentum needed to sustain our efforts in the long run. And what is the reward for this initial exertion? The answer lies in the profound compound effect of consistent effort. Imagine a single drop of water. Insignificant on its own, right? But let those drops fall consistently, day after day, and they can carve canyons, power turbines, and sustain life. Our efforts, no matter how small they may seem individually, possess the same power when applied consistently. A few lines written every day become a novel. A few minutes of practice each day transforms into mastery. A small investment made regularly blossoms into significant wealth. The magic isn't in the grand gestures, but in the unwavering commitment to the small, consistent actions that compound over time, yielding results far greater than the sum of their parts. Furthermore, the act of initially forcing consistency has a transformative effect on our motivation. It might seem counterintuitive, but by pushing ourselves to act even when we lack the initial drive, we often find that the act itself generates motivation. As we witness the tangible progress resulting from our consistency, a sense of accomplishment begins to take root. This internal validation becomes a far more powerful and sustainable fuel than fleeting external enthusiasm. The need to constantly force ourselves gradually diminishes as the habit becomes ingrained, as the positive outcomes become their own reward. We transition from being driven by obligation to being propelled by the satisfaction of progress and the desire to maintain the momentum we've built. So, how do we cultivate this crucial habit of forced consistency? Start small. Focus on one or two key areas where you want to see change. Break down your goals into manageable daily tasks. Schedule those tasks and treat them like non-negotiable appointments. Find an accountability partner or system to help you stay on track. And most importantly, be kind to yourself when you stumble. Consistency isn't about perfection. It's about getting back on track after a misstep. Friends, fellow aspirants, champions in the making, let's delve deeper into the bedrock of all achievement, the deliberate act of choosing consistency. It's easy to be swept away by the initial tide of enthusiasm. A new project ignites our passion, a fresh goal fills us with purpose, and we launch ourselves forward with unbridled energy. But what happens when the novelty fades? When the initial spark flickers in the face of routine, when the allure of instant gratification clashes with the demands of sustained effort? This is the critical juncture where the conscious decision to be consistent becomes paramount. Consistency isn't a gift bestowed upon a chosen few. It's a muscle we must actively cultivate. It demands that we resist the siren call of procrastination, that we stand firm against the tempting whispers of distraction. It requires us to override the natural human inclination towards comfort and ease, to actively choose the path of sustained effort even when it feels challenging. Think of a sculptor chipping away at a block of marble. Each strike of the chisel, seemingly small and perhaps even tedious on its own, is a deliberate act of shaping the final masterpiece. Similarly, our consistent actions, no matter how minor they may appear in isolation, are the deliberate strokes that mold our aspirations into tangible realities. This isn't about blindly adhering to a rigid schedule. It's about cultivating a mindset of unwavering commitment to our chosen path. It's about understanding that progress isn't always linear, that there will be days when motivation wanes and obstacles loom large. It's in those very moments that the conscious decision to be consistent becomes our most powerful tool. We force ourselves to show up, to put in the work, not because we feel like it, but because we understand the profound impact of sustained effort over time. Consider the athlete training for a marathon. There will be days when their body aches, when the weather is unfavorable, when the comfort of staying indoors beckons. Yet, they make the deliberate choice to lace up their shoes and run. They understand that each consistent training session, even the difficult ones, builds their endurance, strengthens their resolve, and brings them closer to their ultimate goal. Their consistency isn't born out of unwavering enthusiasm every single day. It stems from a deep-seated commitment and the conscious decision to prioritize their long-term vision over short-term discomfort. Forcing yourself to be consistent is not about self-punishment. It's about self-empowerment. It's about taking control of your actions and aligning them with your aspirations. It's about recognizing that you are the architect of your own success, and that consistent effort is the fundamental building block. This initial act of forcing is not meant to be a permanent state. Rather, it's the catalyst that ignites the engine of progress. As we consistently engage in the actions that move us forward, we begin to experience the positive feedback loop of achievement. Small wins build momentum, and the initial resistance gradually gives way to a sense of accomplishment and a growing intrinsic drive. The act of being consistent transforms from a forced obligation into an ingrained habit, a natural rhythm that propels us towards our goals with increasing ease and conviction. It's about taking ownership of your journey and consciously steering yourself towards the destination you envision, one consistent step at a time. Imagine a single drop of water, seemingly insignificant, barely a ripple in the vast ocean of potential. Now picture that same drop falling, consistently, day after day, year after year, onto a solid rock. At first, there's no visible impact. The rock remains unchanged, seemingly impervious to the persistent drip. But time, coupled with unwavering consistency, works its silent magic. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, a groove begins to form. The constant impact, though minute, starts to erode the seemingly unyielding surface. Eventually, that small, consistent drip can carve deep canyons, reshape landscapes, and demonstrate the profound power of cumulative effort. This, my friends, is the essence of the compound effect, the undeniable force that underpins the second key to unlocking your greatest potential. Think of your goals, your aspirations, those monumental achievements you envision. They often seem daunting, insurmountable, like that massive rock. The sheer scale can be paralyzing, leading to procrastination or bursts of intense but unsustainable effort. The beauty of consistency lies in its ability to break down those seemingly impossible mountains into a series of manageable molehills. Each small, consistent action, like that single drop of water, may feel insignificant in the moment. Writing a few hundred words each day towards your book, practicing a skill for 15 minutes, making a single sales call, these individual efforts might not yield immediate, dramatic results. This is where many falter, where the lack of instant gratification can lead to discouragement and abandonment of the path. But the magic happens in the accumulation. Just as consistent saving, no matter how small the amount, blossoms into significant wealth over time through the power of compound interest, so too do our consistent efforts in any endeavor yield exponential returns. That daily writing practice, seemingly insignificant, compounds into a completed manuscript. Those consistent practice sessions transform into mastery. Those regular sales calls build relationships and ultimately lead to significant deals. The key is to trust the process, to have faith in the compounding effect of your consistent actions, even when the immediate results are not readily apparent. Consider the snowball rolling down a hill. The initial push requires effort, but as it gathers momentum and size with each consistent rotation, it becomes an unstoppable force. Similarly, your consistent efforts create a positive feedback loop. Small successes build confidence, which fuels further consistent action, leading to even greater achievements. This momentum is a powerful ally, making it easier to stay on track and overcome inevitable obstacles. The compound effect of consistency is not limited to tangible skills or achievements. It also profoundly impacts our personal growth and well-being. Consistently practicing mindfulness can lead to greater emotional resilience. Regularly engaging in acts of kindness cultivates stronger relationships. Consistently prioritizing your health builds a foundation for long-term vitality. These seemingly small daily habits, when practiced consistently, compound into a life of greater fulfillment and well-being. Therefore, don't be discouraged by the lack of immediate, earth-shattering results from your daily efforts. Embrace the power of the compound effect. Trust that each consistent step, no matter how small, is an investment in your future self. Focus on the process, celebrate the small wins, and maintain unwavering faith in the transformative power of consistent action over time. The seemingly insignificant drops of effort you invest today will, with unwavering consistency, carve canyons of achievement and shape the magnificent reality you envision. Think back to a time you learned a new skill. Perhaps it was riding a bicycle, playing a musical instrument, or mastering a new software. In the initial stages, every movement felt deliberate, perhaps even awkward. You relied heavily on external cues, on instructions, on the sheer force of will to make your body or mind comply. There was a conscious effort involved, a deliberate forcing of yourself to practice, to repeat the movements, to engage with the learning process. This initial phase often requires significant mental energy and can feel draining, as you are primarily driven by the desire to achieve the outcome, an external motivator pushing you forward. However, something remarkable begins to happen as you consistently engage with the practice. The movements become more fluid, the notes flow more naturally, the commands become second nature. The initial awkwardness gives way to a growing sense of competence. You start to notice small improvements, subtle nuances that were previously invisible. This is the turning point, the subtle but profound shift from relying solely on external motivation to tapping into an internal wellspring of drive. The act of consistent effort begins to yield tangible results, and these results become their own reward. The initial forcing acts as a catalyst, jump-starting the engine of intrinsic motivation. As you experience the satisfaction of progress, a sense of accomplishment begins to take root. This feeling of mastery, however small at first, becomes a powerful internal motivator. You are no longer solely driven by the desire to reach the final destination. You are now also fueled by the inherent satisfaction of the journey itself, by the joy of seeing your skills develop, by the increasing sense of control and competence. Consider someone who initially forces themselves to exercise regularly. In the beginning, it might feel like a chore, something they do because they know they should. The motivation is often external, wanting to lose weight, improve their health, or fit into certain clothes. But as they consistently show up, week after week, they start to experience the positive effects firsthand. They feel more energetic, their mood improves, they notice their physical capabilities increasing. These internal rewards, the feeling of vitality, the sense of strength, the boost in self-esteem, begin to take over as the primary drivers. The initial forcing gradually transforms into an intrinsic desire to move, to challenge themselves, to experience the positive sensations that come with physical activity. This shift from external to internal drive is crucial for long-term sustainability. External motivators can be fickle, dependent on external validation or the achievement of a specific outcome. Intrinsic motivation, on the other hand, is self-sustaining. It comes from within, fueled by a genuine interest in the activity itself, a sense of purpose, and the satisfaction of personal growth. When you are intrinsically motivated, the need to constantly force yourself diminishes significantly. The activity becomes less of a burden and more of an integral part of who you are, something you do because you genuinely enjoy it and value the positive impact it has on your life. The journey of forcing consistency is therefore not about perpetual struggle. It's about using initial discipline to cultivate habits that eventually become self-sustaining. It's about leveraging the power of consistent action to unlock the inherent rewards of progress and mastery. It's about transforming an external obligation into an internal desire, a fundamental shift that empowers you to pursue your goals not out of obligation, but out of genuine passion and a deep-seated sense of purpose. The initial force you exert is an investment in building a self-propelled engine of achievement, a transition from external pressure to the powerful and enduring force of internal drive. In essence, the journey to achievement is paved with consistent effort, a deliberate choice we must make, especially in the initial stages. This consistent action, though seemingly small day by day, unleashes the powerful compound effect, yielding remarkable results over time. And perhaps most importantly, the initial act of forcing ourselves to be consistent is not a lifelong burden, but rather the spark that ignites our internal drive, transforming obligation into intrinsic motivation and paving the way for sustainable success. Thank you.